Hi there, this is Mike, and today we're going to be talking about a new experimental product that we're going to be starting up here at the Wakefield office. It's basically a winter storm threat index for days 3 through 7. But the nice thing about it is that it's going to allow us to convey potential winter storm messaging to the public and to our partners in a graphical format rather than using just a pure text or maybe some quick graphic from WPC that people really may not understand. And the other nice thing about this is that it's actually using science. It's actually using the data that's out there, whether it be from the ensembles, from WPC, our own forecaster intuition, to provide this product to our customers and to our partners. So everyone knows that a big storm's coming, especially on days 1 and 2, and we give both deterministic and probabilistic scenarios. So in this example here, you see our prob snow page. That's all fine and good. Deterministic values. We have ice, information from WPC as well, whether it's ice or for snowfall probabilities. And then, if it is a really big storm, we'll obviously be doing the winter storm warnings, winter weather advisories, so on and so forth. But what do we do for days 3 through 7? Really not too much. I mean, we may mention an AFD. We may put something in it about a complex weather scenario developing in next Friday that may cause wintry precipitation, but we don't go into a lot of detail about what the threat's going to be. So that's a problem. Obviously, there's obviously a demand. I mean, we see it all the time on TV. Winter storm potential next Friday, or they'll show some graphic where there may be heavy snow or where there may be something going on. The problem is that may just be based on one deterministic run of the ECMWF that may go away, in 2 days. But there is that increasing demand for winter storm information. We know that out in the extended. We know that people want that information in some shape or form. Right now, the only way we can give them that information really is through the HWO, also the AFD, but the HWO is really the only public, straightforward text products that we do this from. Now, WPC does have days 3 through 7 experimental winter probabilities for greater than 0.25 inch of liquid equivalent frozen precipitation. But again, that's mainly geared more towards meteorologists and not towards the general public. And you can see an example of an HWO this is from Sterling, but we have it all the time in ours as well. So, what am I proposing that we do here? So what I would like us to start doing this winter is something that actually Sterling started a few years ago, and I think this is actually, and we're improving on it here a little bit. And so what it is a day 3 through 7 winter threat product, and what it does is it leverages a multi-model ensemble forecast, mainly the European ensemble, or we may have to start out with the GEFs initially till we can get our hands on the European ensemble. But regardless, a multi-model ensemble and also WPC information to capture a threat level for each region of our area. And you can sort of see where our regions are going to be. We have Piedmont, I-95 corridor, the Tidewater area, and then the eastern shore of Maryland, and then the northern neck there as well. Those are sort of in climatologically favorable areas. But back to the threat product itself, the threat level equates to the potential impact, which goes along the right side of the matrix here, and then the uncertainty, which is the y-axis of the matrix. And then the threat levels go along with the correspond to different colors. So sort of that's the standard threat color system that a lot of people use, including SPC, Hurricane Center, UK Met Office. A lot of places utilize this scale where you have the yellow, which is probably not a huge threat, maybe minor inconveniences, to orange, and then to red, and then to the worst of the worst would be the purple. And so again, fairly easy to understand graphics, and again, we can put our own forecaster experience in to identify the big threat patterns from the normal routine patterns that we get as well. So, what goes into this product? What are the quote inputs into the product? It seems like there's a lot of stuff, and there is, but it's very easy to categorize, and it's very easy to input this stuff into the system that I've developed here. So we have the day 3 WPC probabilities of 2 inches of snow and 6 inches of snow. That's basically the probabilities that we see now, except it's just for day 3. The day 3 WPC probabilities of freezing rain greater than, this is supposed to be 100th, I apologize, 100th of an inch, quarter of an inch, and a half an inch. The days 3 through 7 GEFS H50 U wind anomalies, and basically you're looking for anomalous easterly flow combined with freezing winter precip type, and there's been a lot of research that shows that if you get a strong easterly wind, it can intensify or make the snowfall even worse than what might be advertised. No, snowfall or freezing precip. And then later on in days 4, 5, 6, and 7, we have the multi-model ensemble, the EPS or the GEFS, and again we may be using the GEFS at first. Days 4, 5, 6, and 7, probabilities of 3 inches and 6 inches of snow, as well as and then in day 3, especially societal factors like if there's going to be snow during rush hour, below freezing road temps, and then obviously forecaster expertise here as well. And then you put all this stuff into the GUI that I'll show you in a minute, and it will give you a threat level, which equates to a level of confidence, which again is on this y-axis, the level of potential impact, which is on the sort of the x-axis or left to right, and then you combine those together to ultimately get the threat level. And again, those threat levels are commonly used at SPC and elsewhere, and you can see what the threat level means for sort of the definition of each threat level, from slight risk to the high threat of a winter storm. Sort of the high threat is something we probably wouldn't see here every few years maybe. We'd probably be more in this slight to enhanced, maybe occasionally, once a year moderate type threat. And so here's the actual flow chart. And don't worry about these details here because trust me, the GUI will do it for you. But I have this here just so you know how it works. So basically, you're looking at 2 inches, day 3, and then days 4 through 7. There's sort of two different sets of questions. And if you go up along the y-axis, that basically means that your probabilities of snow are getting higher, both 2 inches and 6 inches, or freezing rain as well. And if you go along the right axis, that means that your confidence is growing, that your potential impact could be worse, especially when you get into this tier here. This is when you're starting to see some of the societal impacts, some of the road below freezing temperatures on roadways, the snow occurring during rush hour, so on and so forth. So days 4 through 7, it's the same type of thing, increasing probabilities, increasing confidence as you go up, and then increasing impacts as you go to the right, especially once you start seeing your U component less than -3, that anomalous easterly flow. But again, don't worry about the details here because the GUI does that for you. So ultimately, the goal is to give better information than just snow likely in the extended or even in day 3. This is an example of the big snowstorm we had back in January of 2016. And this was the day 5 probability of greater than 0.25 inch of liquid ending at the morning of the 23rd. And you can see they were already starting to show some pretty high probabilities, 50 to 70% in this region here, and especially the Piedmont and sort of west of Richmond. And really the only thing we could do was just say, snow likely, 50% chance of snow, so on and so forth. And then in the HWO, we talk about uncertainty remaining high regarding the track of the system, but the potential exists for significant winter impacts from the storm, which is a good statement. I mean, don't get me wrong; it was a fine. The statement was perfectly fine, but can we give more information? I think we might be able to, and I'll show you this example as we go through. So, again, let's use this storm as an example. Much of the area saw snow, especially away from the tidewater and the Virginia eastern shore, with some parts up in the northeast of the metro seeing more than a foot of snow, and you all know that. So let's just go through sort of how this would work in real time. And I don't have all the inputs into this, but you can get the general idea. I looked back at some of the data and tried to figure this out. But and I actually did these graphics based on what was in some of the data from the storm. So on day 5, we would have started to have, based on these probabilities, you would have started to see slight risk of, and it says day 6, but this was actually day 5, a slight risk of potential winter storm, but your confidence was a little higher in the Piedmont, but it was still pretty low, and there still was things were still coming together at this point. But once you get to day 4, that's when you start to see the increased risk, especially in the Piedmont, especially with the WPC probabilities increasing 70 to 90% now across the Piedmont. But interestingly enough, that same morning, we actually didn't change the verbiage, the verbiage of the HWO. I mean, if you look back here, the verbiage was exactly the same from the 18th to the 19th. Again, I mean that's okay. That's what we had. That's all we had to really convey this. But you can see this tells you more. I mean, this tells you where we're expecting potentially the worst weather to be. This at least 4 days out. I mean, it's good information. I mean, it's something people can grab onto right away. Seeing that right now, we have to, from Salisbury clear to Richmond and Farmville, Louisa, south of, all have to worry about a potential, winter storm threat. And at this point, the confidence was actually, especially in the Piedmont, was actually starting to get to be pretty high, that there was going to be a winter storm threat. The potential impact might have been actually higher as well out here, but again, I didn't have any 6-inch probabilities to look at, so I was sort of fudging this a little bit. But finally, we get to day 3, and this is where we really start to key into where there was going to be a problem, especially in the Piedmont and even getting into Richmond. We have high confidence and at least moderate impact across the Piedmont, and even getting to have some moderate confidence and moderate impacts as well across the I-95 corridor. And even up into the eastern shore, you're starting to see some potential impacts as well, slight risk there. Only place that still has a no risk type thing is the Tidewater. And again, this is solely based on the forecast. This isn't something I put in, based on what happened. This was actually the forecast. And the good news is that we, in our HWO, we did start to talk about significant accumulations and stuff like that. But again, we didn't really get too specific, which is good, but we didn't really get into many details about where there could be significant accumulations. This actually tells you potentially a little bit more. So that was just a brief example of how a progression for a winter storm could look like. So lastly, a few other things. Don't overthink this. Just go with the data. Even if we only have like a 30% chance of rain or snow in the grids, in the actual grid itself, weather grid, you may find at times we may have a slight chance for a storm threat, and that's okay. Remember, SPC, there's many times that SPC may have a slight risk of thunderstorms, severe weather, and we don't have anything in the weather grid. I mean, it's okay. Don't overthink it too much. Now, if you have moderate or high risk of a winter storm, and you don't have any snow or any winter weather period in the forecast, that may be a problem. But I don't think that's going to happen. Secondly, flip-flopping is possible. I mean, I'll be honest, flip-flop, it could happen. So that's where your judgment comes in. So don't feel like you have to completely go with the data. I mean, if you're thinking there could be a flip-flop going on or something, use your forecaster judgment to back out, back out of it. And also, recognizing that, the pattern recognition, if the, even though the models may be, maybe doing something, if you're still seeing that the pattern is favoring a winter storm or something, then hold on to it, maybe a little bit longer. There's nothing wrong with that.